Alright, now let's talk about number 7 on this list, Safe Area Goražde by Joe Sacco. If you don't know who Joe Sacco is, he's a war journalist who tells his stories through non-fiction comics. Safe Area Goražde is Joe's book about the Bosnian War of the early 1990s. Now the book is fairly evenly divided between pages with the white-coloured edge that show Joe walking around the streets of Goražde, meeting people and doing his interviews. By contrast, the pages with the black-coloured edge represent the reconstructed stories that were told to Joe by his interview subjects. In other words, Joe listened to their first-hand accounts and he drew them up as multi-page comics, showing the events that happened to the people. Now, I'm someone who hasn't lived in a war zone, and for me it was striking to see just how quickly things can turn sour during military conflict. Before the war, the Bosniaks and the Serbs lived in Goražde in relative peace and friendship. But on the first day of the war, the Bosniaks woke up to realize that all their Serb neighbors had secretly left town overnight. And later that day, the Serbs began attacking the city of Goražde. This was the first event in a cycle of conflict that the city had to endure over the next 3 years. For someone who wasn't actually there during these events, Joe Sacco does an impressive job of recreating the experiences of his interview subjects. And he depicts some pretty grisly things with his comics that probably wouldn't be possible through other mediums. The detail of the comic's artwork transports you into the places that Joe is describing. There are lots of little details in the artwork that jump out. For example, we see how the locals were generating their electricity from DIY hydro plants rigged from the city's bridge. We see the way the locals were chopping massive quantities of firewood and stockpiling it so that they'd have enough to get through the coming winter. We see the way the streets were cleared of cars and were filled with children playing and adults pushing wheelbarrows. And we keep seeing the marks on the road where mortar shells have landed in a distinctive explosive shape that looks like a little bear's paw. Joe Sacco is a real trailblazer of comics journalism who has demonstrated how comics can be used to document serious topics like war and conflict. So check out my favourite Joe Sacco book, Safe Area Goražde.